Recent news posted by HisTank.com reveals that the 90s GIJoe series, produced by Deke, may be on its way to home video. So, it seemed like a good time to talk about GIJoe on DVD. On today's show, Shout Factory DVD producer Brian Ward joins me via telephone, isn't technology grand, to talk about the creation of the GIJoe DVDs and what might be in store for the future.
Here they come!
Hold tight!
Okay, let's recap. In 1983, GIJoe premiered with a mini-series called The Mass Device, followed by The Revenge of Cobra in 1984. 85 saw GIJoe become a regular series, and 1987 capped off the series with GIJoe the Movie. In 1989, Deke produced the Operation Dragonfire mini-series, and the show continued into 1991 with 2 more seasons. Since then, the original series has seen some DVD releases from Rhino, but those discs are long out of print. Fast forward a few years later, and Shout Factory makes a splash with Transformers released on DVD. Only having access to the production masters from Transformers, producer Brian Ward personally tracked down the original broadcast masters to splice scenes together with the original production masters to create the best release possible. After such a successful release, it only stood to reason that GIJoe would be next.
Yeah, we literally worked on them both simultaneously. I was producing both complete series sets at the same time. So it was about 32 discs worth of content on top of the other stuff that I was producing at the time.
Was this as difficult to release as Transformers regarding the masters and that kind of thing?
No, not really. We pretty much stuck to the masters we were given, mostly because we had not been told of any sort of issues as it happened with Transformers. I think by the time Rhino had gotten around to doing GIJoe, they had sort of become disenchanted with the idea of retransferring. I could be wrong, but it seems like they didn't touch GIJoe really. And so when Hasbro gave us their masters, we basically stuck to those. And with the exception of a couple of episodes where brief moments have been cut out, which were all at the hand of Hasbro and Sunbow back in the day. People have been pretty positive about it.
Now, it should be noted that the next part of this interview happened before the story posted at HisTank.com, but with so many Joe shows out there, I just had to ask. Are there plans to release the Deke series or the Spy Troops movie? In the case of Spy Troops, I remember you could only get that with the Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes 12-inch figure 2-pack, and if it's been re-released since then, I'm not aware of it.
I can't remember if it has or not. I remember seeing the title not too long ago. We do not have plans per se. Again, like any number of other series, and like the Takara series, I'm not going to say it's not possible. It's certainly something I'm interested in working on, especially having visited JoeCon, talked to fans who specifically want it. It holds a special place in their hearts just as much as the original does. But it's definitely got a following, and I'm really interested in fulfilling those fans' needs as best as we can.
I know I'd like to see the Deke series get a release. Growing up, we didn't get the Deke series. I remember YTV in Canada here showed a couple of the episodes, but as far as the entire series run,
right.
It just wasn't available anywhere that I ever saw anyway.
Yeah.
So it would be good to finally get to see these episodes.
And that's the thing, is even I haven't seen that many of them. I think I saw Operation Dragonfire, and that could be the extent of anything that I saw afterward. I mean, Deke was always syndicated, so it was just whatever market decided to air it, and so I'm not sure it got around to as many markets as the original series, and I was completely unfamiliar with it. I mean, I knew it existed. I had sort of gotten out of GIJoe by the mid-run of that series. It's something that I would like to work on. It's something that I would like to visit, having memories of certain things, and then I'd like to go back and see just what I remember, how much of it is true. I did always like Scoop, but I think that's because I was always a big sort of video and film nerd. So the idea that he came with a camera always fascinated me.
Favorite character? What about favorite episode?
As far as G.I. Joe, I've got a couple of favorites, actually. I grew up obsessed with The Traitor, the 2-part episode where Dusty sort of joins Cobra. That one was always a favorite of mine. I loved Dusty as a kid. I don't know why, but he was definitely my favorite. And the idea that you could have a character that it was so emotional that here's a guy who's betrayed the Joes and gone over to Cobra, and the fact that it was a 2-parter. I mean, that automatically meant that this story in particular had a lot of weight. And then for it to turn around in the end, and Dusty was the Joe all along. That one always appealed to me. I always liked that story. And then there was one other one that was also fairly Dusty-centric. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, and it very well may be as easy as The Funhouse. But yeah, where he and Bazooka and a number of the other characters are sort of trapped in Cobra Commander's Funhouse. They always used it in the closing credit sequence. That one always seemed fun to me, but I always liked sort of creepy fun stories as well. So yeah, those were my favorites.
So now that you know what may be in store for the future of G.I. Joe, well, you know what they say, and knowing is half the battle. That was cheesy. Oh well.